In a video from September, we featured 5 train lines that look really weird. Ranging from New York City to Singapore, we featured U-shaped lines, lines that have a loop inside of them, and incomplete loops. But that video is pretty much a starter. The world offers even more weird train lines for us to look at, and that video scratches the surface. So let's once again go around the world and look at the next tier of craziness. The first one is Paris's RER C. Wait a moment, did you just lie to us? Because this just looks like the train network of some city. Hold on a moment, let me check. No, this is just one train line. No joke. Yes, this web of tracks belong to one train line, which is called the RER C. So where do I begin with this? We have multiple branches that intersect with one another, and I am not going to attempt to pronounce each of those branches because if I do, I will be here all day. But I guess it is good for connectivity in the south as this monstrosity serves 500,000 people per day. At the same time, this line is the most popular line used by tourists. So imagine you walking into Paris and knowing nothing about the RER C and taking a train. And instead of getting yourself into southern Paris, you end up in Versailles in southwestern Paris. That is the insanity of the RER C, where one train line goes everywhere and passes through the same location twice. So why is the RER C built like this? The RER C came after the success of the RER A and B. Planners wanted more RER lines, so they created the RER C. The RER C was the result of 2 SNCF lines, the Gare-d'Orsay Railway and the Rive-Gauche Line, joined together by a short tunnel. And this is speculation, but I am guessing that these 2 lines had their own branches that intersect with one another. And that soon got incorporated when the RER C was extended further in the 1980s and 90s. Meanwhile, to the northwest, this weird shaping U branch was created using an old right-of-way to further connect northwestern Paris to the RER network. All of this rapid expansion made RER C a headache to look at, so planners have started making it simpler by first transferring a branch away from Transilien, and in the future, planners have floated making the RER C more simplified by taking away more of its branches. But only time will tell if those come to fruition. Okay, so the RER C looks crazy, but the next one is even worse than that. In my previous video, I discussed the downtown line in Singapore. But here's the thing, after the loop, it is mostly straight track. That is absolutely not the case with Naples Metro Line 1. First, you have this U-shaped portion on the eastern end, before you have a loop in your central section before twisting and turning on the western section. Basically, the engineers probably thought, let's build a subway line that looks like a strand of noodle. But really, why does Naples Metro Line 1 look so wacky? Well, I couldn't find a specific reasoning, so I emailed Jeff Matthews, who was very knowledgeable about the rail system and the history of Naples. Please go check out his work in a link in the description, as he spent decades documenting the rail system in Naples. And he was kind enough to answer a large amount of questions from me, so here we go. The reason why Naples Line 1 looks so weird can be traced to 3 things. The first is history. Stations were being put down left and right in the 1920s, bit by bit. Eventually, demographics changed, and those existing stations were incorporated into Line 1 to save money, and to follow the commuting patterns of cars. The second was politics, and how a cohesive plan to build out a metro line for Naples didn't really exist, and as I mentioned earlier, those plans just became to reuse existing stations. The final one is soil. Naples has a ton of soil types, where one second the tunnel goes through self-supporting rock, and in the next second the tunnel becomes unstable. So engineers have to be very diligent about digging a tunnel for a subway line, hence why Line 1 looks so weird. Okay, so Naples Line 1 looks even worse than Singapore's downtown line, as it was born out of politics, soil, and commuting patterns. Well, the next line doesn't follow Naples Line 1, but is also extremely weird in its own right. It is Oslo's Line 5. And at a glance, you might be asking, okay, it is a loop line with 2 branches. Big deal. Actually, no. How it operates is that it starts at the end of one branch, makes one complete loop, then goes for round 2, but this time, and enters onto the other branch to end service there. Basically, it operates a really weird service pattern, and if you know nothing of ridership patterns, you might be convinced that this line is literally designed to troll commuters. But ridership patterns tell another story. So what Line 5 operates on is called the Ring Line, and the Ring Line was completed in 2006 after decades of planning to unite different metro and tram services. A quick side note here, the Ring Line has a ton of interesting quirks that I cannot fit in a 10-minute video, so I highly suggest Metroliner's evolution on the Oslo's metro if you're interested in that. Anyway, after the Ring Line was completed, all trains on the outer branches would enter the Ring Line and exit onto another branch. Celebration? Not quite. The RER Line and the eastern section of the Ring Line became some of the busiest sections of the network, but the RER Line only had the T5 service. So a connection between Sinsin and Chongqing stations was proposed to give more service to the eastern section of the Ring Line, and to add to the RER Line's service levels. That section opened in 2016, and the Oslo Metro shifted the entire metro system to better fit the needs of commuters. And Line 5 was born at this moment, to give more service to the eastern section of the Ring Line, and to add to the RER Line's service levels. Although Line 5 is really confusing, it still has its own purpose. Well, the next line doesn't really look so bad as compared to Line 5 of Oslo's metro system, but it's just plain weird. It is Istanbul Line 3, and it looks fine until you see the northern section and see the amount of twists and turns that the line has to go through. Like, why is it built that way? They could have just built this to turn west, then turn north, right? So why did they opt for this convoluted mess? Well, the terrain. Istanbul is a very hilly city, and if planners opted for a straighter alignment, trains would have to climb really steep grades. That is just not sustainable. So they had trains twist and turn in different places where the downgrades aren't so prevalent, and to give more distance for the train to go up and down at a safer slope. Before I give you my final pick, I want to make an honorable mention to Chongqing Line 2. On a map, it looks okay, but if you go to the Lizeba Station, you will find trains going through a building. And what makes it more wacky is that the building was built together with Line 2. So you might be asking, why does a train go through a building? The simple answer is that Chongqing, just like Istanbul, is very hilly. This means that a building could only be built at specific places, and that building just so happens to sit below Line 2. There are a bunch of interviews with the architect that designed this iconic building in Line 2 of the Chongqing Metro, so please go check it out in a link in the description. The reason why this is just an honorable mention is because this line is a monorail line, so technically it is not a train, but I still want to mention it in this video. The final wacky train line is Barcelona Lines 9 and 10, and by looking at a map, yeah, this is just a monstrosity to look at. Like, why are there so many twists and turns? But this analysis is very surface level on why this train line looks so weird. Lines 9 and 10 are also bi-level, and the tunnel boring machines that dug the tunnels for lines 9 and 10 are so big that you can put stations inside of them, which was the entire point. So why are lines 9 and 10 so weird? Well, RM Transit has a good video on this, and I highly suggest you all to check it out, but let me summarize the video. Basically, Barcelona has very sandy soil and a web of existing subway lines. So building really deep was needed to avoid the issues of sandy soil and the existing subway network. But building really deep has its challenges, and building stations was one of them. Because in Barcelona, where can you put a massive pit to dig out stations? So the tunnel boring machine was big enough for stations to be built inside the tunnels. And access to those stations had a ton of high-speed elevators, so that you don't need to build a wide station shaft for a very long escalator. Yes, there are stairs, but since there are a ton of elevators, it means people won't ever need to go down 5 or 6 flights of stairs, as the next elevator is probably here in 3 seconds. So there you have it, 5 or 6 more train lines that are just extremely weird. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want me to feature even more wacky train lines, comment below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.